Bridget looks out at the street. Darkness is falling. She spends a lot of time here with her knitting, watching what goes on outside her window. Bridget is a skillful and creative knitter. She's even had some of her own patterns published. She has a knitting blog that she's very proud of, where she showcases some of her work, and she has a lot of followers. On the banner across the top of her blog is written, "Knitting isn't just for old ladies." And there's a picture of Bridget there too. Bridget's happy with the picture, which she had taken by a professional photographer. She's very attractive in the photo. She photographs well. She'd once tried to teach Karen how to knit, but Bridget could tell she wasn't really interested in learning, and she didn't have the patience for it. There had been some laughs and agreed that maybe this wasn't Karen's thing. Karen seemed to want and enjoy Bridget's company anyway, despite their differing interests. It's too bad Karen hadn't taken to knitting. Knitting with someone is a great way to get them talking, and Karen isn't one to open up easy. Earlier today, Bridget visited her favorite shop, Knit One Purl Two, and she was running out of the fabulous purple Shibu yarn she bought the last time. The minute she walked in the door and saw all the colorful skeins of yarn bundled along the walls, almost up to the ceiling, she felt her spirits lift. So much color, so much texture, such unlimited possibilities. She walked happily around the shop, admiring, feeling, and gathering up various yarns of different weights and colors until her arms were full. She loves gorging on yarn. Bridget was stroking a lovely orange merino wool when a woman she vaguely recognized approached her. "Bridget," the woman said, "I'm glad to run into you. I wanted to tell you how much I loved your last blog post about fixing knitting mistakes." Bridget almost blushed with pleasure. "I missed an increase, and that trick with the crochet hook worked like a charm." "I'm so glad you found it helpful," Bridget said, smiling. It was gratifying to share her experience and be appreciated. It made all the hard work of writing the blog worth it. Sandra at the cash register was also happy to see her. "Bridget, we don't see you much anymore. You must come back to our knitting circle." Bridget instinctively cast her eyes to the chairs arranged in a circle at the front of the store. She wasn't ready to come back. She couldn't face it. Too many women happily knitting baby things. At least 3 of the regulars were pregnant, and they talked about it constantly. She couldn't trust herself not to let her hurt and disappointment spill over. She couldn't trust herself not to say something unpleasant. None of them would understand. Better to keep away. "Soon," Bridget lied. "I'm really busy with work these days." She hadn't told anyone there that she'd quit her job because of the fertility treatments. She didn't want to tell them about her fertility issues. She didn't need their pity. She picked up the bulging, expensive bag of yarn and quickly left the shop, her mood spoiled. Now Bridget watched as 2 men in suits came down the street, knocking on doors. The men stop at her neighbor's house. She'll be next. When she hears the doorbell, she puts her knitting aside and answers it. She's alone in the house. Bob is out at a function, as he so often is. The 2 men stand at her doorstep. The taller one, handsome with striking blue eyes, pulls out a badge and flips it open. "I'm Detective Rossbach," she says. "This is Detective Jennings." Bridget tenses. "Yes," she says. "We're conducting a police investigation. Did you happen to see your neighbor Karen Krupp leave her house on the evening of August 13th? That's the night she had a car accident." "Heart?" she says, although she heard him perfectly well. "Did you see Karen Krupp leaving her house on the evening of August 13th? She had a car accident that night." "Yes, I know about the accident," Bridget said. "She's a friend of mine." Did you see her leave the house that night? The detective presses. Bridget shakes her head. No. Are you sure? You live right across the street. You didn't see her go out? No, I didn't. I was out until later in the evening myself. Why? She looks back and forth between the two detectives. That's kind of a strange question. We're wondering if she was alone. I'm sorry, I have no idea, Bridget said politely. Perhaps your husband was home that evening? Is he here? The detective queries. No, he's not home. He's out most evenings. I think he was out that night, too. The detective hands her a card and says, if your husband did happen to be home and saw anything, would you please have him give us a call? She watches the two detectives stride back down her walkway and go to the next house. Neither Karen or Tom can sleep, although each pretends for the other. Tom lies on his side with his face to the wall, his stomach churning. He keeps replaying the scene of the detectives in their living room that afternoon over and over. He remembers the ease with which his wife lied to them about the gloves. In contrast, he had lied badly and they all knew it. He feels Karen move restlessly on the other side of the bed. Finally, she gets up quietly and creeps out of the room. He's used to this now, her getting up in the middle of the night. Tonight, it's a relief. He hears the bedroom door close softly behind her and turns over and lies on his back, his eyes wide open. Tom had seen the police detectives going up and down the street earlier that evening from the upstairs office window. Karen must have noticed them, yet neither of them had mentioned it to the other. He feels sick when he thinks about the police investigating her, hates himself for the creeping doubt he feels about her. Now he's watching her all the time, wondering about her, about what she's done. And he can't help worrying. What will the police find?